Welcome. This is another Facebook Live edition of Strong and Sassy. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know you could be doing 1,000,001 things, but you've chosen to be here, and I absolutely appreciate that. My name is Animwaa Anim-Addo, and we're on until 8 o'clock. So we're going to have a great conversation this evening. Please send in your comments and your messages, and we'd love to get interactive with you. But tonight we're talking about the final say. So who has the final say? When it comes to major decisions, minor decisions, how you live your life, and all of that. Who has the final say, your pastor or your partner? And let me just say that we picked this topic last week before it all went kind of crazy with all the stuff that's happening with pastors and all of that. So we didn't intend to, get into it. But who knows? Maybe it was prophetic, right? I mean, so yeah. So we're talking about the final say, your pastor or your partner. That's what we're talking about tonight. And I have with me Equia Black, who is an optometrist and a writer. Hello, Equia. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome. It's Equia's first time on Strong and Sassy.
Yes, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. Thank you so much for making time. And I also have Gail Pemka, who is a media personality and a relationship and lifestyle coach. Also, the first time on Strong and Sassy.
Yes.
So Equia and Gail, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let me just say a big thank you to Roberts & Sons for bringing us Strong and Sassy tonight. Roberts & Sons, seeing is believing. I'll tell you a little bit more about Roberts & Sons a little later on. But I'd like to really just dive into the conversation. So let me start with you, Equia. I'm sure you've heard or you've come across stories and instances, where there have been issues and it has really come down to a choice between what one person's pastor is saying and what their partner is saying. And of course, this is for both male or female, so either way. Yeah. Except that I think it happens more with women. I could be wrong.
With women, yeah.
But you guys would agree that it happens more with women?
Well. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a reason why.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you want to just tell us that first? And then
I think it's just society. I think it's society, and society has conditioned women to think, or African women to believe that when you're not married, it's like you're not that valuable, if I should use that word. So a lot of people are under pressure just to marry, and most of them will find themselves like in churches, because that's where they believe that there's this power that can, guide them. Because usually when it comes to marriages, it's all about the Christian way, actually, even though we have our traditional marriages and stuff. But at the end of the day, they talk about the white wedding, you see. And so, of course, if someone is desperate to be counted, among society, then they will definitely want to go that route, the spiritual route. So you see lots of women will be praying. You hear them actually praying for a husband. And I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah.
Like, wow, yeah. Because with the guys, I don't think they'll give them too much pressure. They may say, oh, you're getting old, so your friends.
No, they definitely don't give them that much pressure. But with women, you can be whatever. You can be you can be a president, you can be a CEO, you can be whatever, and they'll ask you, are you married? After everything you've done, you could be owning like 10 houses and all the money in the world. People actually think when you have so much money as a woman and there's no man with you, they feel either there's something wrong with you, no guy wants you, maybe you're proud or something. They feel there is something wrong with you, but it's not everybody wants to be married at the end of the day. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody wants to be.
So Gail has settled that issue for that. That's the reason. So then, okay, let me come back to you, Equia. And okay, let me just make it short. So which side are you on? Who do you think should have the final say in a relationship when it comes to, decisions and things that you can't agree on between the two of you?
Okay, I think I need to issue a disclaimer. For a woman, I'm going to speak from the woman's point of view because, of course, I'm a woman, so it would be easier for me to relate to that. I would like to say that it shouldn't be based on, the final say shouldn't be on, from either the pastor or the partner. It shouldn't be a fine cut thing, do you get it? It has to be a collaboration. Even if the pastor says so, or your partner says so, it is a contribution to what's the final decision, but not entirely because they said so. as a woman or as a man, after they have said it, you also sit down and consider what if you are going to take what they are saying or not. Do you get it? And I would side with the pastor for the purpose of this discussion. Yes, I think Gil is siding with the partner, so I will side with the pastor.
No, but when you say that, then you make it seem as if you actually don't believe. If you say it's for the purpose of this conversation.
Yes, I'm saying that because I think that if I'm going to use the institution of marriage, because that's the most traditional thing we are talking about. If we are talking about a relationship, it's the most traditional example we have. It's marriage is a union of two people, right? And there are some issues that they are definitely not going to be based on the pastor, right? So if we are talking about marriage, the pastor shouldn't even come in so much when it comes to certain issues. The pastor is not going to inform our decision about finances, right? But he can give us some advice. So what I'm saying is that when it pertains to this discussion, it means that on certain selected issues, when it comes down to it, whose opinion or whose advice am I going to take? Then I would have to go with the pastor for certain reasons.
So for example, if you want to marry someone, you bring them to your pastor. This is a nice, God-fearing man, may not necessarily come to this church. You know, maybe there are a few unconventional things about your relationship, or whatever. And your pastor says, no, I don't want you to marry him. And you ask him why. He says, oh, no, I just don't feel like you should. At that point, who has the final say? Because that's the reality of what people are living with.
Yes, actually. At that point, I would say that it will be myself. Yes, the pastor would have a say, but I would have to look at other things as well.
Would you then expect the pastor to marry you since he has said he doesn't agree?
No, I was even going to say this. For the pastor, I even have to define it for myself. It's not just any pastor to begin with.
No, I'm talking about this is your pastor. So
exactly.
Church that you go in.
I'm Presbyterian. And I think we have certain tenets and standards when we are selecting our priests or pastors. And I can say that it's based on a verse in Timothy about him being a person of high repute, his family listening to him, a man of one wife, you know, matured and all that. He's not a new convert. It says all that in the Bible. And for most Orthodox churches, at least I can speak for Presby, it is not that someone just gets up, you know, it happens now, someone just gets up and they are called. So they call themselves a pastor and they haven't been necessarily ordained by a school or something like that, if I should put it that way. So I'm speaking based on my church, okay? And I'm saying that if my pastor is going to advise me, it would hold some weight because I know my church and I know the sort of substance my pastors have. So yes, if my pastor says that I don't think this person is right for you, it's not going to be based on his feelings. And I'm a smart woman. If it's based on his feelings, like I said, I can take it or leave it. Because in the end, he has said his opinion, but it won't depend on him.
So I have family to think of. His feelings.
Yes, I have family to think of to begin with. My family's opinion is definitely going to weigh more than my pastor's opinion. Yes, my pastor might say that, but I would also question why he's saying that. And if it's just based on feelings, then I'm going to rubbish it. Do you get it? If he's saying that maybe I have seen certain traits about this guy, maybe, you know, love blinds us. So maybe I will not be noticing certain things that he has noticed, especially if maybe the person happens to be in his congregation, so he knows a bit more about the person. But if I present my fiancé to you and after meeting him for 45 minutes, you tell me that I don't think this man is right to you, I'm going to question you. Yes, I'm Christian. Yes, I'm supposed to listen to you, but I'm going to ask you why you think so. Because this is someone you met in a space of 45 minutes. What revelation have you had? What has God told you that he hasn't told me? So I'm not going to listen to him and follow blindly. No, I'm going to question his decision. And then if I find some sense or I am seeing something, some weight in what he's saying, then I can take it. But no, it's not going to be based mainly on what he says.
Okay, what's about you, Gil?
For me, I'm not religious, so automatically, I mean, everybody knows where I'm going to go with my partner, of course. And I'm going to explain why my partner, because before someone becomes my partner, or should I say in general terms, one thing I realized is that people confuse dating and relationships.
Yeah.
You have to start dating first. When you meet people, you need to see if there's a connection, and then you get to study the person and then see if there's you're compatible, you know, things like love language, you know, energy, standards. Everybody has to have standards, what you're looking for. And so that's what you're armed with whilst you're studying the person. So before you get to that point where you want to be exclusive, you can even date 2 or 3 people, like at the same time. Just hang out with them, go on dates. And I mean dates as in dates. People shouldn't confuse what I'm saying. Like dates. In Ghana, people can say they have been dating somebody for 1,000 years. Who does that? You know, dating is just dating. You can just hang out, just getting to know someone on a potentially romantic, you know, level. So if you're dating someone and like Charlie is not going, you know, anywhere, you can just let the person go. You don't necessarily have to just be with the person just because maybe you had sex with the person one time, or okay, he did something for you. Sometimes it's just gratitude you're feeling towards somebody. Being in a relationship with somebody and being the person's partner, it's a huge deal, because you are making a choice based on the things you see, the person's flaws, the person's strengths, and you're like, despite all the flaws, I still want to be with this person because I align with the person in terms of standards. So that's why I'm saying I'm going to go for the partner, because when we get to that point, we have drawn some structures, or should I say the dynamics, where it's like we both know that we're a team. And it doesn't mean there won't be, you know, challenges or whatever. They will come, but when you're a team, even when you're fighting, it's nice. Like what this guy said, Ochambi Kwame sang this song, was like, my tree is really bad. It says, you see, my name said, Tokwa be the same be or something. Some song Tokwa be the same be something. I don't even know that one. Benedicta Gaffa was in that video.
Oh, okay.
That song, he talked about, he never knew there were some fights that were better than some, which is strange though, but if you think about it, you can fight where it's very mature, you know, where you don't hit below the belt and stuff. So if I'm on that level with somebody where we are a team, if anything comes up like in life, because we are committed to each other and there's been trust, there's been consistency, I know I can bank on that person's words, you understand? So if anything, maybe a pastor, for, you know, maybe I'm not religious, maybe he is religious, so I need to respect his views and whatever as well. But at the end of the day, if let's say maybe a pastor comes in, maybe and says, oh, I've seen a revelation. First of all, I deal with people on merit as a human being. I don't use your religion to gauge how upright you are. As a person, I look at your core, who you are, not what you are, who you are as a person. You know, your values, your principles, how transparent you are. And
your patterns.
Yes, and how honest you are. And honesty is always about not necessarily good stuff. Honest about bad stuff. Transparent about bad stuff. You understand? So I don't think, if the pastor says, and maybe my guy might believe in it. He'd be like, okay, this is what my pastor said. And then we put it on the table, and I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, that person is also a human being as well. So I'm not in the spiritual world. I don't know what happens there. So if we put a thing on the table, we have to look at it from a realistic point of view. I'm a very practical person, so I'm going to dissect it, break it down, and I'm like, hey, this is what the person is saying. Nobody's spoken to me from the spiritual world. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they told you, but for me, you and I are going on this journey together. So what you say, even if maybe you agree with your pastor, at the end of the day, if you say this is what you believe in, and I feel like it's going to align with you and I, I think there's two people. As partners, you are a team. So at the end of the day, it's what you say, my partner says, it's what I'm going to take. Because I didn't just get to that point with him. Yeah. I didn't just get to that point. So it's what he says is what I'll take. The spiritual thing, like I said, I'm not a spiritual person. I don't know how it works.
Okay.
So I won't
Fair
work with
enough.
it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Did you want to say something?
Yes,
Yeah, sure.
I was going to add to what Gail said. Yes, marriage is a partnership, and sometimes there are going to be some issues that definitely cannot be resolved between the two of you.
I was just going to start talk about that.
It cannot be resolved between the two of you. A third party has to come in, an objective person. It might not be your family, because the family is also, they are going to have a certain amount of bias.
It doesn't have to be a pastor. They are psychologists.
Exactly, but in this case,
in
this situation, we are considering a pastor.
But that's where I will go. That's where I'm going to go to.
You know,
So
I mean, you brought this up.
Yes.
So let me just ask you. I'm neither here nor there, but the issue that sometimes I've had with pastors and relationships is that there's a whole science of relationships that has nothing to do with being spiritual.
Yes.
But I don't find that a good number, and maybe it's just people I've met, a good number of pastors or religious people take the time to actually learn the science of relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that even trickles down to just us as humans and the fact that we
Can
think,
I attempt to
love
explain that?
Which one?
What you're just saying, the spirit, what you're talking about, how they don't get the physical side of relationships.
Okay, sure.
It's because Ghana has been made to be seen as a religious,
Entirely related.
And we're 70%
or
religious,
yes,
so
or a superstition thing.
superstitious, yeah.
Every little thing that happens, your grandmother somewhere, and I used to ask, have you ever seen a grandmother doing,
Yes,
you know,
please, some of us,
doing
we've
those
seen
things?
them. So.
Okay, I haven't. I mean, okay, we hear stuff. I mean, like, listen, like, when you're born in Africa, by default, you are superstitious. By default,
Yeah.
because your mom will tell you,
from the
hey,
day
don't
one.
talk to this auntie. This auntie is a
From
witch.
our outdoor
Yeah, you
rings
haven't
to all
seen
of
them,
that.
but that's what they've told you. So you don't go near them, even though you don't know why they
are
said that.
witches,
So that's
yeah.
what I'm saying. But it's so bad that people don't rely on their capabilities anymore. Like eating food, brushing your teeth, having a bath. We know we do them ourselves. Me walking to this place, I walked on my own. There's nothing wrong with saying you did it, but you see, the religion makes it look like, you know, everything has to be attributed to some deity, like every little thing. And so that something good happens to you, automatically, oh, I give thanks to whatever I believe in. And then when it's bad, it's Satan. Everything is Satan. Everything. Someone dies, oh, then this person killed this person spiritually. I'm not going against anybody's religion, but all I'm saying is that, like you said, it gets to a point that people tend to forget that the physical side exists. So if you have an issue with your partner, see it as that. It's not everything that you can ascribe to somebody working something somewhere. Every little thing, you have a fight, you think someone is someone's fault. Yet you are aware that the person you are with has those crappy, habits. You know the person is human. People are not perfect, even if it's a pastor.
I agree with you on a certain level.
Yes.
Because definitely there's the physical and there's the getting to know.
I always say that.
I also believe that there's a spiritual side to things.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying that. I'm not against that, but I'm saying that if we focus too much on that,
yes,
then there's simple things that can just be solved with little conversations.
Yeah.
You end up in a church. People always go to the church too. People actually pray for husbands without praying for the physical side, which is little things like, and I'll give an example. Somebody prays for a husband. Wedding day, they get married. Wedding night, honeymoon, nothing is happening. Nobody can do anything. Sex is not can I say that?
Yeah,
sex is not happening. And then you hear guys say, oh, the woman wasn't smelling good and the guy is not performing and nothing happened and he's got a small penis and all of that. Will you pray about that one? No.
Okay.
Some things you know that you can't tell me if someone has a small penis, you're going to pray about it to the bigger.
I mean, you never know. You could pray bigger.
No, I'm just saying, let's be realistic.
I mean, you just never know.
Let's just be realistic. Let's be realistic. Some things we should just know that, and I'm going to quote from the Bible, even though I'm not religious. They said, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. And it's every person who is not even religious, you know that. Because we've been giving knowledge. People have got high IQs to see things. People are inventing things. We were intelligent, you know. Even goats, if there's a car coming, you see the goat running, how does he know that the car's going to hit him? A goat. So how much more human beings who have brains? People are creating stuff, you know. People are doing things like with their brains. So we shouldn't dismiss that. There's nothing wrong if you're proud of your achievement and you're like, I did this. Yeah, it doesn't mean you are going against whatever you believe in, that, oh, if I say that I did this, then I think we should leave those things there. People are so spiritual that even when they're not even sure of how things go, they are automatically very sure that this is how it went. I have been scammed by somebody pretending to be a pastor before. And I'm not saying that I believed his integrity because he said he was a pastor, but the fact that he had audacity to use that title and someone close to me, I don't want to, that's the person's story, so I wouldn't mention the person, but the person believed them, and so because of that, I got caught in that.
Into it.
Yes, we all got scammed because the person believed that, oh, this person has a good heart, and that's what they do. So in Africa, the spiritual thing is really scary these days. You can't tell who actually has a good heart. You see people who see you in the street and they'll tell you, I'm a pastor and I need to pray for you. I can see that there's something wrong with your marriage, and I'm not married. I'm not married. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
Missed call.
So that's what it's a bit scary as well. But I mean, like we should be able to know that when it comes to marriage and when it comes to relationships, both people have to work on it.
Yeah, of course.
If it's something beyond the two of you, nobody is saying don't bring in a third person, but don't ascribe every little thing. Maybe your partner is being disrespectful, or your partner is cheating on you, then you'd be like, oh, then it's someone's fault. If you give too much power to something you haven't seen, when you can just solve it yourself. That's where I'm coming from.
Go ahead.
I think that as much as I saw a quote from social media, and it was saying that don't speak in tongues for things that you're supposed to apologize for. Right. And another one just this morning, they said that you can speak to Jesus or God about your problems, but you can see a therapist too. I am using that to lead to my point that, yes, there are some things, maybe as Ghanaians or as Africans, we have elevated religion and Christianity to this level, and we have made it something that is not supposed to be. If you're a Christian and you know God for yourself, you know your Bible or whatever religion you are practicing, you are not supposed to, as the creator, you're supposed to have a connection with, a relationship with. A pastor or whichever leader of your religion is to lead you to it and not to inform you. Most Africans or Ghanaians, we have elevated our pastors or priests to the level that we don't study the Bible for ourselves. We don't find the truth for ourselves. We take their word as the gospel, which is wrong.
Or which is lazy. It's because we don't want to.
I didn't want to say that because...
That's fine, you can say it.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
If you know you can pray and God would listen to you, why would you go and sleep in a prayer camp and not pray, just be there for the pastor to pray for you? Some people actually pay pastors to fast for them. Do you get it?
Because so we can't fast. We like food.
We have created
and
that
we have
demon.
money, so we'll pay that. You fast for me. Thank you.
We have created that demon for ourselves. Yes, I'm religious. Yes, I'm spiritual. But you remember with my first point, I said that if the pastor says something, I'm going to ask him why. Why are you saying this? Is it based on your feeling? They are also human beings.
That's what I said.
Every spiritual person or religious leader is also a human being. They are going to involve emotions. I've encountered that a couple of times. And if you have the spirit of discernment, like you were saying, test the spirits to know. If you have the spirit of discernment, you are still going to sit down as a human being. If you are smart and ask that, okay, this is what he's saying. But then God is not an MP or the president. I can go to him without protocol.
But you see, everything that you are saying is the exact reason why people like to go to their pastors and get the absolute answers from them.
You can't.
Do you get why I'm? But do you get what I'm saying? That because she is what Equia is suggesting is that, okay, get to know God for yourself.
Yeah.
Read your Bible and understand the Word of God.
Yeah.
And when you want to know something or you want answers, learn to go to God and wait on Him. All of that, it's a lot of work because God, most of the time, He takes a very long time.
Very frustrating, it is.
Then now you talk about the spirit of discernment. The number of years that it will take you to develop, the spirit of discernment.
So why are you not relying on your own capabilities?
Relax. We'll get to that. The number of years that it takes to develop the spirit of discernment to the point where you are sharp
to hear from.
It's not easy. It takes a lot of sensitivity to the Holy Spirit, which comes with obedience, which is a problem, which comes with, it's not an easy path. So the easiest path is to assume that, okay, the pastor is doing it, so I'm just gonna.
The pastor is not a perfect person. They are human. And I haven't even gotten to the point where we were going to discuss the flaws in the marriage and it not being solely spiritual.
Yeah.
The pastor is probably arguing with his wife before you stepped in for your counseling session.
Course.
That is what some people tend to forget. The pastor has a family he is probably neglecting because of the church. His wife is disgruntled. But we refuse. That's why I said that we have raised religion and Christianity. Maybe we have made a monster out of it.
We have.
We have. It's supposed to be simple, okay? But maybe we have elevated it to a certain pedestal or a certain level where we see it as something which is not. My point is that if you know that the pastor is also a human being, the pastor also has issues, okay? And the pastor himself recognizes, I mean, the whole heat that is going on this week, I'm not going to get into that. But
we haven't asked you anything.
I'm not going to talk about it. What I'm saying is that the crux of the whole issue is about pastors being raised onto a certain pedestal where they are deemed untouchable or maybe not human. That's all I wanted to say. I'm not going to go further than that. But what I'm saying is that if a religious person or a Christian, because I am Christian, I'm going to keep using Christianity. If a Christian realizes that the pastor is also human, the pastor has a family, that is why I said that as a Presbyterian, I know what my pastors are modeled after. Okay? So if I'm going to my pastor, I know that this man, I know him personally. He is someone who has been married for so and so years. He seems to have a good family.
Thank you, you said
he seems to be of good repute.
Seems.
But at the same time, if you're smart, you have it at the back of your mind that he does not have all the answers.
So, but how can you think that if you're the human being and you are going to him for spiritual guidance, you wouldn't want to see him like yourself?
Yes, but you should know that the pastor is not going to have all the answers.
But do you think he will show you what he's going through in his family? There are things that we hear about what they do to their wives.
That is why you're supposed to take every advice with a grain of salt. Do you get
There's
it?
a thinking that I know, the things that he did, but to me, that I couldn't talk about even after he passed.
Yeah.
But when he passed, everybody was like, oh, you know, like, you know how they eulogized him.
You know them
and
personally, you're just shaking your head. Exactly. Off. Yes.
Yeah. You don't know them because there are things that we hear. And because of what I do, I get a lot of stories about what the pastors, the wives are going through, and also what the pastors tell them when they are going through stuff. You can go to your pastor, you're saying, my husband beats me up, he abuses me mentally and physically. And then the man says, hey, you're married, so go back to your marriage. And they are beating you up. Didn't you hear about a pastor that killed his wife? We hear about stories of pastors who are having affairs.
That's why I
who
said
are pedophiles and stuff like that. So that is why I'm saying that at the end of the day, if there's the choice of the pastor and they are both human beings at the end of the day, but my commitment is to my partner, not the pastor who's going to influence it with, because some of them don't even see anything, but you come to them and they have to just tell you they've seen something.
Some of them.
Yeah, I mean, but how can you know? How can you know that what he's telling you?
You are the human being. You are the one.
He's a human being as well.
No, you know, the pastors are not imposed upon you. There are 1,001 pastors around. There are some bad nuts, yes, but there are some real men of God who have wisdom and also are spiritual.
I want to ask you a question here. The women who go to their pastors,
yeah,
and whose pastors' words are absolute for them. Do you, or have you noticed that there's a certain systemic brainwashing that starts from when the person enters the church, how they are raised. They are not encouraged to know God for themselves or read their Bibles.
Yes.
And so they get to a certain level where
they are scared to do anything without the pastor's approval.
Exactly.
When they even know that what he's saying is wrong.
Is wrong.
But
Well, they can't acknowledge it
at that
anymore.
point, they've been brainwashed to
Because
the point
it's complete
they don't know.
brainwashing.
Yeah,
So you don't even know.
They will fight with you when you point it out because they are blinded.
You see,
I beg to differ.
no, but the thing is that
It's like, see, example,
happens.
you know your husband is cheating on you. I don't think you can tell me that if your pastor says you should still stay with him and pray about it, and you know you cry every night. Are you telling me even if you don't, you can't do anything about it? Are you telling
me that you haven't met women who go and pray every day?
What I'm saying is that, yes, I'm saying that they will stay, but I'm saying that whilst you're staying, you are feeling the effect of it. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
See,
It will
that's what
surprise
I'm
you
saying.
that it will surprise you
But
that
you
you
can't
point
tell me
it out,
that, yeah.
the person will fight with you.
Oh, but somebody will tell you that, oh, so if your husband cheats a little bit, there's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly.
Because they've been brainwashed. But I'm saying that it doesn't mean you still will not feel the effect of it. You will feel it. That's
yes.
my point.
But you see, a lot of women who stay in those situations, and if you link it to some of these pastors, they'll tell you that, like, this is your test. So this is what he's doing, but pray for him.
His time is the
because
best.
his salvation and his redemption depends on your prayers.
And then you
so
die.
you can't abandon him now. You have to pray for him and snatch him from the jaws of the enemy.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So after you've been told this and some oil has been poured on you and you've been empowered to snatch your husband from the jaws of the Sakawa girl who is exactly. When you come home, you may feel the sadness, but there's a way that your mind doesn't want to accept it. So there's a way that you talk to yourself and you turn it around and you feel empowered that,
and they actually blame
this is
themselves.
That's abuse.
At a point, they are going to blame
abuse.
themselves.
It's downright abuse. There's no doubt about it.
And I don't care what anybody says.
And it happens. It happens. That's what I'm saying. That, like you said, they've been brainwashed for a long period of time. Laziness, backwardness, or
the brainwashing, which is very systemic.
The brainwashing. And it's not after the person grew up and then they joined the church and became that way. And even if they changed churches, like the church in which they were raised had a certain level of brainwashing, when they grow up and they become independent, they still end up going to such churches.
And let me tell you a story. A friend of mine bought a car a few years ago, and so she bought this car, and the car was parked in the house. So we keep on asking her, now won't you move the car? Won't you move the car? So I go, I'll move it. It was about maybe 9 weeks. Then she finally moved it. Okay, so Amania, why did you finally move the car? Oh, I was waiting for my pastor to come and anoint the car for me.
I've heard that before. Yeah, seen something like that happen.
It happens.
So, I mean, do you understand how, like, just say, you've bought your
the
car.
level of brainwashing.
Until your pastor prays for you, you will not drive the car. Because he's praying to a God that is not accessible to you.
That's what I was saying. It's not as if God has some protocols that you can't reach in for yourself.
I didn't see anywhere in the Bible,
It is laziness.
there's something,
Ignorance.
protocols for when you buy a car. One.
I don't think it's laziness. I actually use the word brainwashing. It's like, you know, there are times when they have this thing they call Stockholm syndrome, which has got nothing to do with this anyway.
Yes.
But somebody can kidnap you and do whatever to you, and you find yourself stuck to the person in love. So I wouldn't call it laziness. I'll call it it's a psychological thing.
It's very complex.
Yes, and if you don't have confidence in yourself, you don't know what to do with yourself. Somebody's going to do it for you. Somebody's going to tell you how to walk, what to eat, how to think. Somebody's going to do that for you.
And remember that a lot of times we go to our pastors when we are very vulnerable. Because at that point you feel like, oh, I don't know what to do anymore. So, you know, I'm going to bring it. At that point, it's like you want, and a friend of mine was telling me how he had COVID and somebody sold him this tea at this exorbitant price. And he was like, I would have paid anything for it. Because, you know, the doctor said that this is exactly, and that's how it is, you know, when we go. I think that is why perhaps, and sometimes we overlook the scripture or the verse. I can't remember exactly what it says. But it says something about the fact that the pastors will account for every single soul.
But do you realize that when you look at the balance when it comes to gender, it's like that. Like it's mostly the women. I don't see a guy going to a pastor telling him, okay, they might do that, but what I'm saying is that they won't be that desperate to take
Some
everything
of them,
they say. Yeah, a few of them, but it mostly is the women. And it comes back to what I said in the beginning about society and how they have condition women to think like.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
and especially about relationships and marriage.
yes, they even make you feel terrible for being single, like it's a crime.
It's a curse.
Yes, like, hey, nobody in my family has been married before, so I have to marry. And it's so bad that you meet somebody, sorry to say, he has bad breath. And there are things that are deal breakers for me, like someone that doesn't smell good, who's
like
unkempt and things.
Noticed.
You cannot tell the guy that you can't tell the guy that he has bad breath, but you go ahead and marry him just because of the ring, and then later you think there's a magic wand that will be waved like wedding. You know, you're married, so okay, everything's clean. People marry before they get to know the person, and then when they start seeing things, they'll be like, oh, it's somebody who's doing something in the spiritual world. But somebody has got bad breath. What has that got to do with the spiritual world? These are physical things.
No, but you see, it was the grandmother.
Oh, okay. No, okay. So
you don't understand.
So
when he was born, she planted something in his mouth.
So it's like it's they feed that desperation into people. For me, the way I think, I'm not married, I'm single, and I'm so cool with it. You can't get me with, why are you not married? You should be married. Your mates are married. You can't get me with that.
Okay. But not everybody is.
No, I'm just saying, because I had to build myself to that point. When I was way younger, I was so ready to get married. As soon as I meet a guy, I've already married a guy, because that's how they've told me to do. In my mind, I see myself having like 2-3 kids. I've cooked, because they say women, marriage material, they have to cook, clean. For me, my marriage material is a man who has to cook and clean as well. Cook and clean, and that's what I'm going to go for. So yeah, bring it on, you know. So they said, if you talk to a guy, what's your ideal woman? She has to cook and clean. People have left their women because they don't cook and clean. I'm thinking, a grown man like your type, and society tells you you shouldn't cook and clean after your own self. Wait for somebody to come and do that for you. So if you never get married, you'll be dirty throughout, or what? You need to be able to clean up after your own self. And you believe it, like you're 30. You're 30 and they come to your house and it's filthy. And you think a woman is only made to come and cook and clean for you. So now you put the fate of your stomach in a woman's hands. She has to cook and clean. And you're disrespecting her. That's why people get killed. They get poisoned all the time, because it's like you can't put, how do you call it, those roles on a woman and then cheat on her and stuff like that. Some of them snap. Some of the women, they snap. They're like, oh, okay. You hear women say, I cook for him, I clean for him, I don't ask him for money, and he's still cheating on me, so I'm going to curse him. I've heard of stories where women have cooked food with their menses, with their poo, their phlegms, and the guys are enjoying it. Like, you don't know what's going on. So, you know what I mean? You don't know, you're enjoying it, like, yeah. And I know what I'm saying, because these are the stories you get. These are real life stories. So, if I were you, if you're a guy and you're looking for a partner, you have to look for sensible things, like the core of the person. Is she transparent? Like, is she a team player? Is she, does she have integrity? Is she principled? Is she honest? Don't look for things like big boobs, big ass. She can cook, she can clean. Guys have left their girlfriends for that. She can't cook. Oh, I love her and everything, but she can't cook. Really?
Yes, really.
You know, the best chefs are men. Most of the best chefs. Imagine you're with a guy, your man, he's cooking naked in his apron
Madam,
alone.
Please.
Okay.
We are talking about pastors.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So if my man is doing all these things for me, if my guy is doing all these things for me, why would I take exactly what I'm saying? I'm still talking about the same thing.
Yeah, but we don't go to our pastors when they are behaving themselves. We go when they are misbehaving.
Exactly, that's what I was going
Why
to
should
say.
that be? That's why you need to steady your guy. You need to steady your guy.
You can't
and
have it 100%.
yeah, me myself, I'm not 100%.
You can study him for 1,000 years.
I am not 100% myself
Okay,
because
so
human
let's
beings
talk about
change.
when there are issues.
When there are issues, that's what we are talking
So
about.
let's-
Because after you can study someone, you can marry for. Do you mean that those who have dated for 9 years, when they finally do get married and they are living together, there are no issues? There are issues. So we are focusing on when there are issues. If there is an issue that is not being resolved between yourself and your partner, when he says that, let's say finances or maybe childbirth, I think that's easier, especially because, like I said, if you have been through the traditional marital setting, you went through the premarital counseling and everything. Most of the time, if you are in a church that has their own system, you are given counselors from the church, which is most likely the pastor's wife or some elders. Do you get it? That is where it starts. If they are the ones who counseled you, most likely when there is an issue, like what Adam said, the woman you gave to me. So now the person runs back and says that the person you said I should marry and this is what is going on. That becomes the start of the whole matter. Do you get it? And if you go, and I'm citing an example, your husband wants 3 kids. For some reason, you want 2. You can't find a common ground. And your husband is saying, it's 3 kids or nothing. So you have,
but you discussed that before you get married.
You have discussed it. There are some issues. That's why I'm saying that this is just an example, but definitely there are some issues in marriage that are beyond the 2 of you. I'm just citing an example. Maybe it's not the ideal example. Maybe it can be sorted between the couple, but just for the sake of an example, if this is an issue that you have discussed it for weeks and it's not being resolved, there is a cold war between the 2 of you, there is a standoff, so you think that there should be an objective party in it. If you are to bring an in-law, if it's my mom or the man's mom, the person is going to be biased because Adenamebane say that you know how African parents can be.
You think the pastor will be biased as well?
That I'm trying to explain why some people depend on the pastor. I'm not saying that
feel
that
like
is the
he'll be
hard
less
truth.
biased.
He would be less biased because he is not a family member. And like I'm saying, some people, for them to put some trust in the pastor, it means that the pastor has some qualities that they admire. And usually, if you are looking for sound advice, you go to someone you look up to or a role model. So if we have decided not to, some people even decide that we are not going to discuss our issues with our in-laws because they are too close to the matter. So they would prefer the pastor. They would prefer the pastor.
You said, yeah.
Please, I'm censoring myself.
I've said this for you. They are too troublesome.
So they would prefer the pastor to come in. And the reason why I would understand why someone would take the pastor's opinion is that, yes, I don't want to bring in my parents. Maybe the pastor is the closest to what I have as a parent.
And maybe he's been there from the beginning of the relationship.
He's been there from the beginning.
Yeah, but I'm not with him in the relationship.
I understand. That's why when it gets to your point, then you defend it. I'm speaking for the pastor, so I'm explaining myself. I'm saying that the pastor might be the closest thing to a parent you might have. Some are orphaned, but some also have their parents, but they decide that I don't want my parents to know that, parents don't forgive in-laws. I don't mean forgive in that sense, but
parents-in-laws don't forgive.
You would report your spouse to your mom. You would have forgiven your spouse, but your mom is still carrying the grudge.
Especially the men's mother.
Exactly. So sometimes some couple decide that we are not going to bring our parents in our issues. So we would rather prefer an outsider. The outsider, the closest being the pastor. And I am speaking from an Orthodox point of view. Our pastors, like I said, are people that have been married for a number of years. And marriage is, yes, we play marriage by the 2 people. But then there is nothing under this sun that hasn't been seen before. So whatever problem that you might be facing, probably he has encountered it. And might have something, or he knows people because he counsels a lot of people. He's in charge of an entire congregation. So he has some experience to that. So he can tell you that, and that is what I'm saying, that if you are smart and you have a good pastor, I'm not speaking for other pastors, I'm speaking for pastors of my church, because I know that I can vouch for them to a certain extent. I don't know their private lives. Do you get it? So if I'm saying that maybe we are having issues.
Now, even when you're vouching for your pastor, you can't do food
because sister, you don't know what goes on. You don't know how their wives are grieving in the home. But like I said, we usually like to idealize religious leaders and assume or pretend that they don't have problems, which is not the case. But the thing is that pastors, if the pastor has been trained right or being called right, he is wise, number one. He is objective most of the time, and he tries not to put his emotions in. So you are not going to, if you have a good pastor, you are not going to, that's why I was saying that my pastor would not encounter my fiancé for 45 minutes and call me after counseling, call me to the side and tell me that's Bema no Nyema. And then I'll just nod my head and break up with the man without finding out why. So if I know the sort of person my religious leader is, when he says something, I'm going to take it. It will carry some weight, but it won't be the entire crux of the issue.
Okay.
Yeah, they have experience, probably more than we do. Yes, my husband is there. His opinion matters a lot. Of course, he's the one I've chosen for life. But he doesn't have all the answers, neither do I. So we would need some help from outside. And maybe we would decide that we don't want our family members to come in. So the next best thing will be my pastor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Let me just say thank you to Roberts & Sons Optical Service. I'll come to you guys for your final words on the topic. But give your eyes the best attention and care it deserves this year. The eye is our most important sense organ, accounting for about 80% of our awareness of our environment. So with 30 plus years of experience, Roberts & Sons Limited Optical Services continue to offer a comprehensive eye care service, which includes a lot of things, like all-day comprehensive eye testing, eye specialist services, pediatric eye care services, corporate eye care services, optical coherence, tomography scans, and so much more. Visit Roberts & Sons Optical in Adabraka, Osudankwa Circle, Tema Community 6, Weja, East Legon, Adenta, and Kumasi. For more information, please call 0302-222-601 or 050-151-9111. Or visit the website is www.robertsandsonsoptical.com, and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as Roberts & Sons Limited. Roberts & Sons Optical Services. Seeing is believing. So we just have a few minutes left.
Oh, okay.
So soon.
Yeah. So this is my question for you. When a couple encounter trouble.
For me?
Yes,
Okay.
for both of you. For both of you.
You.
I have to ask.
When a couple encounter trouble, when a couple encounter an obstacle that they cannot handle between the two of them, what's the safest place to go to, or where is the safest place to go to?
For me, a psychologist, a therapist,
cool.
That's what I believe in. Because anytime I hear things like, talk to somebody you respect, so you don't respect your wife, like, or your husband, every time talk to somebody he respects, every little thing, talk to you have to respect, because it's a choice you make to be with somebody. You have to respect that person first, and you have to try and deal with issues no matter how difficult it is. That's why before you get married, you have to have all those difficult conversations. You have to try and imagine things that could come up, or how we're going to deal with that. Like, in case maybe we are not having kids, we may want kids. If it's not coming, what will we do? Just, try and,
talk to them
think
first.
of those scenarios. Just think about them and then say, okay, no, I don't need this. I don't. Then at least the surprises will not be too many. But if there are surprises that you didn't expect at all, and like you said, it's just too much for both of you to handle, there's nothing wrong if you bring a third person, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a pastor. For me, I believe that if you want a neutral person who's not going to be biased and be like, oh, I know you and I know you, you need to bring somebody in. And a therapist, that's their job. They deal like a doctor, they deal with you.
The problem at hand.
Clinically, there's nothing like, I know you.
Yeah.
Listen to you. Some people don't know how to talk to each other. Some couples don't know. So when the therapist is there, you can talk to each other through that person and say, this is how I feel, this is how I feel. And then he's going to be like, okay, this and this and this and that. And then sometimes you may not get a solution, but the fact that you'll be able to talk about it
Helps.
Yes.
Okay. What about you?
Let me start by saying that in an ideal world, fine, therapy. But Ghana, the Ghanaian culture is that if I'm seeing a therapist, I have a mental health problem, which also earns me a certain sort of ridicule.
Stigma, yeah.
Yes. So some people are very opposed to a therapist. So the best next thing to a therapist would be the pastor. And also, if I'm having an issue, okay, if we are a Christian couple, what we believe in would be religion. That is where we find our solace. That is where we will draw our strength from. So when naturally, it is not as if it's something that has happened after we have married, that we are now bringing in a pastor. It has been our lives
from
throughout.
The beginning.
Okay, so it is almost natural that when there is an issue and we feel that it is beyond us, I'm not saying we don't pray, I'm not saying we don't discuss it. Of course, the person is your partner, so you have discussed. That's why I keep reiterating that if it's beyond you, like you said, if there is something that they can't resolve, then they can decide that they should go to the pastor. But even that, the pastor wouldn't be my first point of call. It would depend on what the issue is. When I got this topic, I was actually like, okay, I'm going to sit on the fence because it's not clear cut. There are some issues that I would definitely not be able to discuss with my pastor. The pastor is a human being. He has a wife. Or koda or beka. Or besha or some way. Like, he'll be looking at you like, oh yeah, the person is human. Do you get what I'm saying? So they are probably not even going to be as objective as they should. So there are various channels. And if you have gone through premarital counseling, the church way, there are various places that you are advised to.
The church's premarital counseling, there's a full conversation on its own.
That is something we would even get into later. Yeah. But if you have gone through that, there are channels of conflict resolution, okay? They start, if it's even in the Bible, but not in the marital setting, that if I owe you and we are not able to discuss, if I have an issue with you and we are not able to resolve it amongst ourselves, we send it to, and they give hierarchies. Into you go to the next best person.
And the whole world gets to know.
But, you know, it is someone's belief. It is someone's belief. So if you are a Christian, I'm speaking from the Christian point of view, and you don't know how to resolve your issue, and you don't want to bring in your family because that should be the next best thing. But as a couple, you have decided that maybe this is not an issue we want our family to know about. If you're okay with the pastor, fine. I'm not saying Christians are opposed to therapy. No. The Christians can also decide to go for therapy. But if the option of a pastor is on the table, then it is not so bad as we are making it look like. Do you get it? There are still some good pastors
who say it's so bad. No.
Oh no, I'm not saying you are saying. No. I'm just saying generally.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
There are still some pastors who give very sound advice. So
yeah, most pastors, if you see him as a person, some people are really like clever and very sensible in the advice they give.
So whilst they're arguing, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Well, you can continue. I'm just signing off. You can listen.
I was even going to
thank you so much for joining us tonight, Strong and Sassy. And we've been here with you on Facebook. We'll be back next week. We're back on radio next week. So join us at 7 p.m. A very big thank you to my guests who joined us. You can go. She'll continue on her Facebook page. So please go to her Facebook page and read the rest of her opinions. A very big thank you as well to the entire production team for this evening. You guys were fantastic. Thank you so much. We're grateful. Good night.